We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar, remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just ask you,
David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask you.
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
That's it. That's it. You see what they did there? So again, they're blaming him and they're disregarding. That's a true statement. It was Pelosi who was supposed to be on top of that. So I'm gonna go back to, and we're gonna fact check this, guys. So NPR, again, leftist. I'm using mainly leftists on purpose. That way nobody can say, oh, those are the Republican media. No. I'm using leftist medias on purpose. That way you can't use that shit against me. So the former chief of U.S. Capitol Police says security officials at the House and Senate rebuffed his earlier request to call in National Guard ahead of demonstration in support of President Trump that turned into a deadly attack on Congress. Former Chief Stephen Sund, I want to remember that last name, Sund, who resigned his post last week after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called for him to step down, made the assertions in an interview with the Washington Post published Sunday. Okay, so Sund, he says, Sund told the Post that House Sergeant at Arms Paul Irving was concerned with the optics, which, by the way, if you never saw that interview that Sund made with Tucker, I highly recommend you watch it because it is extremely insightful, because there's a lot of things that we were not told during the January 6th. And the fact that it took them forever to give those tapes out tells you a lot as well. So let's continue. They cared about the optics, meaning they cared about how it was going to look, right? Declaring an emergency ahead of the protest and rejecting a National Guard presence. He says Senate Sergeant at Arms Michael Stenger recommended that he informally request the Guard to be ready in case it was needed to maintain security. Like Sund, Irving and Stenger have also since resigned their post. Sund says he requested assistance 6 times, which is what Trump was saying, ahead of and during the attack on the Capitol. Each of those requests were denied or delayed. Again, and what do? Instead of just recognizing this to be an actual fact, this has been said already by the police chief at the time, they disregard that and say, we're not talking about Pelosi, we're talking about you. Because what they want is they're putting him in a corner to make him say that it was my fault. No, you're not gonna break me. Because at the end of the day, if he breaks, we break. He's a symbol of us, the people. So if I were him, I will go back to, why are you forcing me to say that it's my fault when I just told you it's not my fault, it's Pelosi's fault? Why are you putting me into a corner?